'em up, drink 'em down, whiskey and cigars all around. Cheers, y'all.
Well. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this fine radio program. This is Smoking and Toasting. It's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. Welcome to the show, number 128. My name is Cruz. My co-host, Mr. Ian Barry. Adam Andrus is our producer on the Wheels of Steel, and we are live today at one of our favorite hangout places. We love this place. It's the New Potato.
The New Potato. This place Houston. Is awesome.
Yes.
They have a great outdoor deck, and as you can see, we're sitting outdoors today.
Now, it's not cold today, but it is a little chilly.
A little chill in
cool.
there.
Yeah. So we got the heater going behind us, and it's actually quite comfortable.
Got the smoking
here on the deck.
And hoodies.
Yes, sir. And I will point out that it's raining because it's been raining. Actually, it's been foggy in Houston for 173 days.
Yes.
This would be number 174.
Yes.
actually.
Recently, you can tell if the humidity goes up or down by 2 points because it either starts or stops raining.
That's exactly right, and it's foggy the rest of the day. I live up on the 32nd floor. I haven't been able to see my surroundings since like Christmas.
You're
It's been ridiculous.
like living in a vampire novel.
It really is. It's very, very strange. I'm expecting to see Tom Cruise. It's not a pleasant thought.
No, that's bizarre.
Anyway. So welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the show. We are brought to you by B&B Butchers and Restaurant at 1814 Washington Ave in Houston and in the shops at Clear Fork in Fort Worth. Now, we are at the New Potato today, or we're on location today. We're at the New Potato because it's one of our favorite places to go on location. But we're on location because it's time for Pipe Smoking 102.
Yes.
Or is it Pipe Smoking 101.1?
You know, okay, so we've done Pipe Smoking 101, but that was in the before time. That was before we did video.
Yeah,
so we're going to go ahead and redo Pipe Smoking 101, but we're going to call it 102 because we already did 101, even though it's only audio. However, we are going to walk you through the beginning stages of selecting a pipe, loading a pipe.
Right.
And enjoying your pipe.
And this is really important, I think, for a lot of people because obviously cigar smoking is a much more well-known hobby than pipe smoking is. But pipe smoking has its own special pleasures. And interestingly enough, Ian, it was back around show number 50, I think, that you and I did Pipe Smoking 101. We did it live on the back patio of the Mucky Duck. It was colder than this, I remember.
Yes, it was much colder.
And interestingly enough, of the earlier episodes of the show, that was actually one of the most downloaded and listened to. And this is before we were on video and had grown a little bit as a show. But there appeared to be quite a bit of interest. So I thought, you know what? We didn't do it last winter. Let's do another pipe show again.
Yeah.
And you, of course, I brought my pipe, which I'll talk about.
It is a beautiful pipe.
Ian brought his pipes because, once again, you are completely over the top and
I cherry-picked,
ready to rock.
I cherry-picked a few out of my selection here. So
Okay,
what did I come up with? That's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I only brought 11 of them.
Okay. Well, we'll get to that. I want you to explain maybe some of the differences in the pipes, what people should be looking for in a first pipe. Mine was a Christmas gift. This wasn't actually my first pipe. I had one of the awesome corncob pipes that you got me way back on the first show. But the pipe I have here was a Christmas gift from my wife, and it was awesome. And I've only smoked it a couple of times, so you're telling me it's not nearly broken in yet.
It's not broken in. I actually looked in the bowl of your pipe and can see that it's not broken in yet.
Okay, so we'll work on breaking it in a little more here today on the show. That's part of what it's about. Plus, not only are we doing Pipe Smoking 102, but on today's show, the best cheap whiskey. That's according to both the whiskey experts, the reviewers, and it's according to the public. Two separate lists, and we'll see how well they contrast and compare. And if there's anything that I like, it's inexpensive but delicious whiskey. So that's something we will look forward to getting into. Plus, we have a number of different interesting stories. Lone Star is rolling out a new 68-calorie beer. No word yet on whether they'll have an ingredients label, but they are rolling out a 68-calorie beer.
I'm not going to lie. Since we had that Lagunitas Daytime that's at 98 calories, I have actually been through a few six-packs of that.
It's a really amazing beer. It's a full-flavored, tasty beer that has less calories than a Bud Light. But does it have weed killer in it?
That's a good question.
Because Bud Light does, and it's not mentioned anywhere on the ingredient label.
Well,
we will get to that.
You know, as one of our guys pointed out on the ingredient label, it doesn't mention yeast either, and that's
right.
a pretty important ingredient.
A pretty important ingredient for
feel
all
like,
beer. Yeah, you know.
Yeah, no yeast, not really any beer, right?
Yeah, right.
Then
So-
you just have barley water. That's kind of like cereal.
Apparently, they not only left out yeast, but they also left out weed killer. And we will get to that story. This is a real thing, by the way.
I've never heard of this. This is awesome.
I'm not making this up, because how could you make something like that up? So we'll be getting to that. Also, we were talking with Paul, the proprietor here at the New Potato, and he's going to bring us out some very interesting beers to taste. Now, this isn't one of our official review beers, but we are sure enjoying this early one that we procured.
This is a local. This is 11 Below Brewery. Mm-hmm. Which is located fairly close to our location right now. This is one they call Dublin Meluck.
So it's an Irish red, is what you're telling me.
It's delicious.
Yeah, it is. It's a red ale. I don't know if you can see the red. It almost looks almost more copper, I guess. But
since he put this on tap, I've been doing my best to drink him out of it.
And I understand why you should. It's really good. It's got a real maltiness to it, and it's got a real I don't know. There's a flavor that I attribute to red ales that I don't know.
So
what it is.
Very few beers have that thing that you're talking about, and it's on the finish. It's a little bitterness, but it's a specific kind of bitterness. ESBs have that,
right? But it's almost not
and
like
red ales
hop.
have that, right?
It's almost not like a hop bitterness like you're used to, maybe from an IPA, which has a sort of a pininess to it. This is completely different. Almost like it's a malt bitterness. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it's like a bitter chocolate bitterness.
Yeah, there you go.
Without the chocolate flavor, but that kind of bitterness. Yeah,
right. But I know exactly what you're talking about. So, well, it's absolutely delicious. 11 Below Brewery, yet another of the fine breweries here in Houston. But we are going to be turning our attention to one of the fine breweries from Flint, Michigan, a little bit later in the show, and it's one of your faves.
One of my favorites.
Bell's. Yeah.
Bell's is great. We're going to actually, I think, try 2 of their beers on the show.
Okay, and there's a reason for that, by the way, which we'll also get to.
That'll come
and
up.
it also all ties into the New Potato. See how these things just sort of converge and come together, almost like it was meant to be.
Some guy named Chris Hart says hi on here. Actually, he doesn't say hi. He says, "Sup, fools."
Well, you know what they say about Chris Hart. Nobody cares about that guy. Yeah. So
he's falling behind though. I think Alan Denny's actually ahead now.
Is he?
I think so. On the who's been on the show the most times race.
No, I thought Chris has been on since Alan. Now Chris is up by 1. Although no one cares about this contest.
Right, no one cares about this.
But at least that's what we've been told in the 1/3 of one review of the show that I've actually read. So it was breaking my heart. I couldn't go any further.
We need to rate. We need to review the reviews. I think that'll be a fun thing.
Yeah.
Where we have a show where we just review our reviews.
We actually probably should do a show where we read the reviews. That might be one of the more hilarious episodes of the program.
Well, you know those reacting to videos are awesome. So maybe this will be
right.
S&T reacts
Ian
to their
and
own.
Cruz react to the reviews of the show. Oh my God, he thinks I sound like a turtle.
Right.
Okay. So, one other thing I wanted to mention in the early part of the show here today, Brandon from Platypus Brewing. We want to send our best wishes out to him. Platypus Brewing, also here in our hometown of Houston, and they are a wonderful brewery. They started out as a brew pub. They have great food. They make amazing beer. They're right over near our sponsor location, B&B Butchers and Restaurant. Ian and I have been over there a number of times, had my birthday party over there. Brandon, who is their brew master, was involved in some kind of an accident earlier this week. He was actually hit by a car.
Oh, man.
And got taken to the hospital, but he is recuperating and doing well. So we want to send our best out to Brandon because he's a great dude, and we just appreciate all that he's done to bring quality beer to our little hometown.
And he was a joy to have on the show when we had him.
Really was fun. Yeah, really was fun. So so there's just so much going on in the world of beer and cigars and spirits. Oh, by the way, help me with the spirit that Paul said he's going to try on us. It's a Mexican gin.
Is a gin from Mexico that's coming on. We'll have a little later on the show. He says very interesting. So we actually are just relying on Paul as the proprietor to provide us with the beers and the spirits today. But we're apparently going to have a Mexican-made gin on the show.
Yeah, so
and I don't know what the name of it is yet, but we'll we'll figure that out when he brings it out.
So, Ian, as we're getting ready to do the pipe show here, walk me through your portion of your pipe collection that you've brought out for us to see here.
All right.
What's the difference between these, and why is one pipe different from each other in terms of how it smokes?
Well, frankly, because they look different.
Okay.
No, I'm just joking. That's me being silly. Okay,
I understand.
So, I brought out some fun stuff in the collection, and frankly, if you're out and about and you're choosing a pipe, go by looks. Buy a good brand and go by looks. It's fine. It's going to be a great smoking pipe.
As long as you buy a good brand.
Yeah, get a quality brand, because if you buy a bad quality pipe and it doesn't smoke well, it's going to turn you off from it. You're not going to enjoy it.
So if you go to a tobacconist that has pipes, the person there can help you know what's a really good brand of pipe.
So
right?
One of the
Peterson obviously is a well-known good brand.
Right. One of the more interesting things is there's a company called Missouri Meerschaum, and Missouri Meerschaum makes corncob pipes.
Yep.
As a matter of fact, do you have one handy over there?
I think
Adam, do you have yours handy?
Yeah. Let's take a quick look at
what
a Meerschaum corncob pipe.
Yeah. So
because that was the first pipe. Actually, you gave me my first pipe, which was a Meerschaum.
Well, so
corncob.
These are awesome. So this pipe right here is made by a company called Missouri Meerschaum. This is an actual corncob pipe. Yes, it's made from an actual corncob.
What, about $8-10?
Yeah, they're like $6 to $10, somewhere in that neighborhood. They have a cheap plastic stem on it. They come with
like what Popeye smokes.
Right. They come with a little filter in there. Most people just take that and pitch it directly in the garbage because it's silly. I usually just do that, but that's up to the person who owns the pipe. I gave this one to Adam, so he'll try smoking his pipe today. So the funny thing about this is, if you pick up, and I pick these up by the handful a lot of times when I'm trying new pipe tobacco. So, and I'll explain that a little later too. But if you pick up one of these pipes for less than $10, or even get a fancy corncob pipe for up to $30, it's hard to find a better smoking pipe than this without spending in the $60 to $100 range.
And this is not something fashioned to look like a corncob. This is actually made out of
actually
a corncob.
Corncob. Yes, This is real deal, actual corncob. So, I'm going to recommend, if you're interested, try a corncob pipe if you don't want to spend the money, because if you're going to spend the money on a good briar pipe, then you're going to spend in the neighborhood for unless you know what you're looking for, but for a decent one, you're going to spend in the neighborhood $60 to $100. You can go all the way up to, if you want to buy a nice Dunhill for $800, that's fine, but you can get a great Peterson or Savinelli anywhere, under $200 pretty easily. Okay.
Right.
So if I walk you through some of the pipes that I brought here, first off, this is my corncob.
Of course it is.
This style of stem is called a Churchwarden stem, and this is my snarky sense of humor here, is to take the most elegant style of pipe, and of course, it's a corncob pipe. So
you put this stem on a corncob
right?
pipe.
There's a company called Forever Stems, I think, that you can find online, that makes these stems, and really nice vulcanite, which is what these good stems are made out of, really nice vulcanite stems that he makes specifically to fit onto a corncob pipe.
It's so great.
So I ordered one, and I ordered the Churchwarden one because that's just awesome. And now I have a Churchwarden corncob. This whole pipe, because it is a corncob, and I've had this for years. It smokes fantastic. This whole pipe, I think, cost me $40.
And show me
it's one of my absolute favorite pipes ever.
And show me what the very best thing about the Churchwarden
So
stem
the
is.
Churchwarden allows you to. It's incredibly effective. Like when you're smoking a pipe. Now, let me show you how this works. Okay, when you're smoking a pipe, you can adapt this faraway look.
Right. That is a good faraway look. I like that.
And it makes you look like you're really thinking deep about something. So let me just go into this. And one of my favorite things to do with this,
it's the pointing.
it's a great pointing device.
It really is.
And it really gets your point across in ways that you can't do if you're just, because this right here,
Yes.
and even though this is like right there in your face, is a lot friendlier than this,
Oh, no question about it.
right?
And it also seems to carry more weight somehow.
It does. It actually adds gravitas
Gravitas
to
is
everything
the
you're
right
saying, no matter what it is. So,
That is the actual.
So that is
perfect
one of my
wording.
favorite pipes, even though it's not a very expensive pipe, and it's a blast to smoke. In the middle here, if you can see these four lined up here in the middle, these are my some of my Peterson pipes. This is a Cara, and the interesting thing, Adam, I don't know if you can come over here and put that up there. The stem on that, show them the end of that stem. I think you might have bumped the camera there too. But show the end of the stem on that. That one has, instead of a standard stem, that one has what's called a P-lip stem on it. And you can see the very end of that is shaped differently. And the hole is actually kind of on the top of the stem where it goes into your mouth.
So what's different about that, and why do they do that?
It's the way the smoke draws into the palate.
Okay.
So some people like that. I think it's interesting and it's fun to have one. It's not my favorite stem. The standard fishtail, which is, that's just the wide open one that you get on pretty much every other pipe. The standard fishtail is my favorite. However, it's fun to have something with a P-lip just to try it. And Peterson makes that really nice Vulcanite P-lip. This next one is a Peterson Army Spigot. Now this pipe, is legendary. First off, it has this silver reinforced stummel. That's this part of the pipe. By the way, bowl, stummel, stem. The stummel is reinforced with metal, and it's the Army pipe because a lot of people would take it apart like this, and you can put it in your pocket, and it's almost indestructible.
Gotcha.
I mean, when you break it down into these two parts that just pull apart so easy, it's almost indestructible. So I have two of these. This is a reissue of, I think, early 30s. This is also a Peterson. This is another Peterson Army Spigot. This is the first one that I bought. I think one of the first Petersons that I bought. Same basic design, a little bit different bowl on this one, as you can see. This is a stack. And then one of my absolute favorites, and probably one of my more valuable pipes, is the Peterson Silver Spigot.
That's really interesting.
As you can see, this is a bent stack. And then the stummel and the stem both have silver on them, which is why it's the Silver Spigot. It's the spigot like you see on these other Army pipes, but it's silver on both ends. And that does need to be polished up every once in a while. So that's a great smoking pipe there. That's one of those, like, you have to be really geeky to appreciate that. This one I brought, this is just fun. This is a, what's the brand on this? I'm forgetting. King's Cross. This is a tiny pipe. If you look at this versus, like, a standard, even this corn cob, you can see the really size difference. Yeah. So some people prefer that just because if you want a short smoke, this is a great way to go. You don't have to. It's
not as big of a yeah.
And so that's the theory I think behind. Some people like the smaller bowl to fill it up, and you don't use as much tobacco. That being said, I have found that I can just not fill my larger bowl up as much, and it works just fine too.
Just fine. Yeah.
Now, right in front of me is a fun one. This is one that my brother sent me, and it was it had a broken stem on it. This is an estate pipe. It was a used pipe, had a broken stem. This is an old Stonehaven pipe. Now, this is a company that's been out of business, but they were making great pipes. I think, and this is probably 70s vintage, late 60s or up to mid-70s, somewhere in that area. Anyway, he says he found this. He got it in a lot of pipes that he bought, and sent it to me. So I sent it off. I took it up to the Briar Shop. We'll talk about the Briar Shop in a little bit. I like that place. I took it up to the Briar Shop, and they sent it to a guy who did a brand new stem for me. And this style of pipe is called a nose warmer. Now, if you're looking at it
right?
from this direction, you may not tell why, but let me turn it this way and show you.
That would be a nose warmer.
As you can see, this is a very small pipe overall. Although the bowl itself is not terribly small, this is made so you can stick it in a shirt pocket, or you can stick it, in your pocket. Like I had mine in my pocket earlier. It's a great smoking little pipe, great for short smokes, easy for travel because it's very small. You don't have to worry about, it not fitting in your pocket and stuff like that. Whereas some of these larger pipes, sticking that in your shirt pocket looks a little obnoxious.
Mm-hmm. And I want you to at least show this one before we take our break, because that's just
so. I'm really just going to walk through just a couple more pipes here. I know I'm getting long-winded because I'm excited about my pipes. This is an Eric Nording pipe. Now, Eric,
turn that around so people can see what that looks like on the top there. Yeah.
Yeah, the top of this. This is what his company calls a freestyle. Eric Nording carves pipes, and this is his freestyle pipe. Basically, he carves it into a pipe shape, like that, but some of this stuff is just the way the briar's shaped, so he didn't bother shaping part of that. And every single one of these that you get is unique and carved uniquely because they're all different pieces of briar, and some of the design features on this are just because that was part of the wood itself. So you really aren't going to get two of these alike.
The shape around the top lip and all of that.
So if you go to a shop and you buy an Eric Nording freehand pipe, you are getting a very unique pipe. You are getting a one and only. And I actually have two of these, although one of them needs to be slightly repaired on the stem. But I love these pipes. These smoke great, and they look amazing at the same time. So the English, being ever practical, created a pipe called a falcon. And this is all metal. The metal stem and lower part of the bowl and everything's metal.
So
and then
it's
you
not
have
wood like the others.
Right. The other ones are all briar and vulcanite. So this has a plastic. It might be vulcanite. I think it's plastic stem on it, but feels great. The rest of this is all metal. And
is even the bowl metal?
The bowl is not. Now, the bowl is briar, and these are incredibly interesting because what these allow you to do is you can just unscrew the bowl and take it off there. So that's two things. It's super easy to clean this pipe out because you get a lot of humidity when you're smoking a pipe. So because the tobacco's humid and you're burning it, and then on top of that, you're slobbering in your pipe a little bit. So it's incredibly easy to clean this pipe out. But the other cool thing is you can just buy different bowls for it and have a different smoke.
Sweet.
So there's a bigger bowl that I have. And then I have, this one's a cool one. This was a limited run that they did called a shillelagh, where they twisted the whole shaft of that, which looks super cool. And I have this big green bowl on it that I truly appreciate because it looks cool.
I thought a shillelagh. I thought that was something else.
Shillelagh. And then this, I think, is the bowl that actually came with it originally. But the nice thing about these is you can just swap the bowl as your mood fits.
Yeah, exactly. That's
personally, I like it with the green because it's a shillelagh, and I figure, St. Patrick's Day, blah, blah, blah. So that's a lot of fun. That's pretty much running through, except for I got one more here.
Yeah, you better show that one off. This is quite the pipe.
So Meerschaum is
They're
stone.
The ones that make the corn cup.
No. That's just the name of their company. It's Missouri Meerschaum. So that's kind of a tongue-in-cheek.
So now
on what Meerschaum actually is. Meerschaum is a stone, and you find a lot of it in Turkey and those kind of things. So Turkey makes. You go to Turkey, they make a lot of pipes. Turkish Meerschaum is world renowned for pipes. This guy, when you see that white, it looks like bone almost.
It really
and
does.
It carves, and the detail
on
on this. Yeah, and they have guys that just specialize in carving this. The detail on these are pretty amazing. And the cool thing about this, mine's just barely starting to do this, but you can see where it's handled and around the top where it starts to darken. Well, this whole thing is going to eventually have this dark amber and black patina to it that's going to make it look absolutely amazing in a few years, quite a few years after smoking it enough. And that you absolutely can't hurry up and make it happen.
No,
that I know of.
no.
I mean, that just happens over time. So that's a lot of fun. That pipe right there is.
So you put a lot of time and energy into really learning about pipes. How often do you actually smoke a pipe as opposed to a cigar?
It comes and goes in moods and in waves for me. So I almost never smoke a pipe in the summer for the reasons that it doesn't really occur to me. But in the winter, for whatever reason, I like having a pipe in my hand, and I'll sit out back and I'll enjoy it.
Seems very cozy, doesn't it?
I also can once in a while get away with having a pipe indoors because it smells good.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to go ahead and say this. No matter how good a cigar you have, it still smells like a cigar, and that never smells good the day after inside.
This is true.
So a pipe tobacco, though, leaves more of a, depending, I like aromatics, but leaves more of a nice, warm fragrance in
more
the
of
room.
a hearth and home sort of.
Yes,
to it,
very much.
All right, so we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, We'll go through the basics. Ian will walk us through how to load your pipe, how to light your pipe, what the basics are. And I think we're going to get Paul over here and try to get him to load one up for the
Yeah, we'll have him as a newbie on here doing this.
A newbie from the New Potato. And that's where we are. We're live at the New Potato in Houston, Texas, in what they call Edo, East Downtown for Houston. And we will be bringing you the rest of Pipe 102 plus the best cheap whiskey. And we'll let you know why Bell's beer is featured so prominently on today's show and why you should really recheck that Bud Light label because it doesn't mention the weed killer that's in the beer. That's all coming up. You are listening to Smoking and Toast. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toast in segment number 2. Paul from the New Potato just arrived with, of course, this is what happens when you leave things to Ian. Ian says, "Yeah, tell him to bring the barley wine." It's like it's second segment of the show. You're already going for like the the highest ABV that they have.
The next 4 segments incredibly interesting.
well, that's good because I was hoping they would be interesting. So, Paul, we have do we have a pipe for Paul to smell?
Oh, I gave him one.
So Ian, part of this segment we were going to do a quick review of Pipe 101, and you were going to show Paul how to load and light the pipe.
Yeah, so a lot of people get intimidated by how how do you do this? What is this process? It's actually easier than you think. And there's a ton of people. If you ask 15 different people how they load their pipe, there's probably 13 different variations of that. Yeah. So here's your mic. If you'd like to talk. And when you talk into the mic, and I was just scolded on the online, you got to keep it kind of close to your face, or no one will be able to hear you because the difference between this and this is big. So, okay. So I've got a few selections of tobaccos here. We're going to go ahead and start with this one here. So I'm going to walk you through loading the pipe. Yes. Mm-hmm. All right. Now, what I like to do, I'm going to load one of mine at the same time so you can watch me. What I like to do is when you have a bag, especially a bag with a nice big open mouth to it, you can actually just stick your pipe down in the bag. And frankly, I'm just using my finger to kind of scoop some in there. Now you can
easier than spilling it all over the table.
Yeah, because the tobacco will spill all over the place. I mean, that's just the way it is, right? So I'm just scooping it in there till it's full, okay? And then I'll kind of...
Do you pack it in?
Well, I'm not packing it in. I'm just scooping it in. So that's another thing is people have a misconception about that. I'm not packing it in there. I just filled it. That's all, okay?
Now, you will pack it, though, a little bit later, right?
I will pack it a little bit, but I start by just filling the bowl, okay? By the way, I don't know if you want this or not, but these Missouri Meerschaums come with a little filter. You can leave it in or take it out if you want.
I'm going old school here.
So at this point in time, what you'll do is take your finger and just lightly tamp it down. Now, I'm not trying to compress this tobacco into, tobacco pulp, but I'm pressing it down probably 25% of the bowl. It's not much, and
It's a part of getting it to burn better. Is that why?
Yes. Okay. Yeah, so if it's too loose, it doesn't stay lit.
Right.
And if it's too tight, guess what? It doesn't stay lit.
Exactly.
So you just want to tamp it down, and again, about 25% of the bowl. So it's not a huge, you're not tamping it down real hard or whatever. And then after that, you'll check the draw on it.
Right.
Now, this is actually pretty easy because if you're a former cigarette smoker or if you are a cigarette smoker, when you put it to your mouth and draw, it should draw basically about like a cigarette. Okay. If you're a cigar smoker and you don't have that cigarette reference, go ahead and try that. See if it draws about like a cigarette. There's just a little bit of resistance to it, and that's it?
Yep.
Right, okay, so that's
what you're looking for.
Right, and if you're a cigar smoker...
Less resistance than a cigar, then.
Right, if you're a cigar smoker, it should have a slightly less resistance or like kind of like an effortless cigar draw. Gotcha. So that's just something to kind of give you a cue on how tight to pack it. Now, I've accidentally packed mine too tight and gone through with my handy-dandy pipe tool here. This is just a little fold-out, what we call a Czech tool, because it's made in the Czech Republic. And it has a tamper, a poke, and a scoop on it. So this helps you clean and maintain your pipe. So my next process is you can do a match, or I have a Zippo pipe lighter here. And you can probably see this. It has a hole through the middle of it with the wick coming out. And this allows you when you light it to lay it sideways and draw that flame straight down.
So this
into your
is
pipe.
a lighter. We talked about this the last time, but this is a lighter specifically designed for lighting pipes.
Right, and if you already have a Zippo, well, you can frankly just buy a pipe insert for it and pop it right in.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Zippos, the fumes off the Zippo, does it not affect the tobacco?
It does. That's actually a great question. So I avoided using Zippos for a lot of years. The advantage is it's a good, sturdy lighter. The disadvantage is the fluid smells like lighter fluid. However, quite a few years back, probably in the
Unlike a
neighborhood,
butane lighter, which doesn't give you that
right,
same-
which gives you no fluid smell. But quite a few years ago, Zippo came out with their low odor fuel, which, you get just the tiniest bit on the first puffs, but I found that it doesn't distract from the rest of it.
Interesting.
So I actually enjoy having a Zippo, first off, because you can sit and do this with it, and it's a Zippo,
If only we could have discovered that low odor fuel for my brother when I was growing up. And he wasn't even a pipe smoker. I'm just talking,
in general.
in general, it would have been a good thing.
So anyway, with the advent of low odor fluid, I started using my Zippo all the time with this. Now, a lot of people like to be traditional and use a match, or you can use a standard Bic. As long as it's a soft flame, you don't want to use, if you're a cigar smoker, do not use your cigar lighter because you will scorch the ever-living you-know-what out of the top of your pipe.
Makes sense.
So at this point in time, all you do is put it to your nose. Not your nose, sorry, your mouth. Don't put it to your nose.
It wasn't working for me, Ian. I don't know. Why.
Sorry, it's my nose warmer pipe. That's what I had. And then, as I do this, would you hold that here for just a second? Thank you, Paul. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to light my Zippo, and I'm going to lay it across the top.
Mm-hmm. So you're just inhaling, drawing the smoke down?
And gently drawing the
drawing
smoke
the fire
in.
down, yeah.
All right. Now, I have another process that I do right after I light that, but I'm going to walk Paul through that as he lights his pipe. All right, so lay it across the top, draw just a little bit. And when you get it to where you feel like it's pretty lit, I want you to take your pipe tamper and I want you to tamp the tobacco down just a touch more. This process can take a couple moments.
I want to inhale this because it's
No, don't inhale it. Yes, that would be a mistake.
too late.
So, and while you're drawing, tamp it down. Just lightly again. What this does is it allows you to light a little more even, and then relight one more time, and your pipe should stay lit.
Now, Ian, I lit mine during the break, and I've already what seemed like a really nice light, lots of smoke, but it did already go out on me, and I had to relight. Did I
Normal.
maybe pack too loosely,
No.
or it's a normal thing?
No, it's normal. We get to talking and things like that. If you're a pipe smoker, you're going to relight your pipe pretty often if you're talking. If you're standing there concentrating on it, it'll stay lit. But most bowls of tobacco you'll have to relight at least once, sometimes more often.
I will point out that even without the longer stem that you showed us that you got on your one pipe, there is still great temptation to point with the pipe.
Well, as
even
I
with
stated
the shorter
earlier,
stem.
and yes, this is something you need to try,
I
Paul.
don't know what either one of you are talking about. Don't know if you heard that.
It does add a certain amount of gravitas to the situation, and that's just a fun
You
word.
make
by
a
the way.
good point, sir. Yeah, you see what I'm saying? It's almost like you almost can't help it. You almost can't help it. So, all right. So, Ian, tell me again about the tobacco you are smoking. in
so
your pipe.
I went by. We have a shop here in town, and it's been there forever. It's a great shop. It's called the Briar Shop, and we'll have to explore going and having cigars or pipes there at some point in time. As I was speaking with Bill over there, and he said, "Hey, man, you guys could be here anytime."
Is that the place over in Rice Village?
It is. It's over in Rice Village here in
Awesome
Houston.
shop.
Yeah, it's a great shop, and they have tons. Like if you want to buy a pipe in Houston, they have the selection. They have the pipes there. They have a respectable cigar humidor. They have a great little shop there, and it's been there for a long, long time. It's a lot of fun to go in, but they have the pipes.
And if you're in Queensbury, New York, check out Queensbury Cigar and Pipe, which is where mine came from.
There you go. So So I went by there earlier, and I just decided they have a whole bunch of jars. I should have taken a picture of it. I didn't think about it. They have a whole bunch of jars of pipe tobacco set up out there. And then I just, it's set out so you can grab the jar, take the lid off, and smell the tobacco and see which ones you're going to like, because that's pretty much,
That's how you shop for pipe tobacco.
That's how you shop for pipe tobacco. Now, my favorite blend there is called Accountant. That's what Paul's smoking here. And it's a very aromatic, very vanilla and chocolatey kind of smells come off of that. The room note's amazing. No one's ever complained when I'm smoking that around them. I also picked up this matured Virginia. Now, Virginia tobacco is a little more cigarette-y. It's not totally cigarette tobacco, but it's more cigarette-like tobacco.
Right.
And this has a little aromatic to it as well, so I figured I'd try that. That's what I'm smoking in my nose warmer here.
Now, aromatic, as it pertains to pipe tobacco, means what? That it has more... is it more of a fruity, sweeter flavor?
Fruity smells, sweeter smells. A lot of vanilla. A lot of times, Cavendish tobacco is matured and what's the word I'm looking for? It's fermented, and you get a lot of those flavors. Now, there's different ways. Some people will put a topping on tobaccos. I usually go for more natural tobaccos. So some of the extreme fruity tobaccos are over the top flavored.
See, I never was into the hookah thing because I don't want grape tobacco.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't appeal to me.
Right. So
Maybe does that appeal to you?
not at all.
Yeah, no.
I smoke.
Yeah.
But there's different things. Like I saw the one you're having is Sunset Rum. I saw the name and immediately
you brought this to me, and it's wonderful, but it appeals to my palate. Being more of a cigar guy, it's got a little more of that sort of feeling and flavor on the tongue that I get when I smoke a cigar.
Right,
so that's why I'm enjoying it.
And rum is actually a pretty standard flavor in cigar tobacco. You'll see rum cured or rum aged tobaccos and things like that, and you get kind of a rum smell with some of the spices that they use. So there's a few common things you'll get in tobacco. Some are a little more cigarette-y, some are a little spicier, like Perique. If you see tobacco that has Perique in it, it's going to have a peppery kind of spice to it a lot of times. Cavendish is basically your sweeter smelling tobacco leaves that have been fermented a bit and aged. And then your Virginias are a little more like your standard. Like, you can even look at the difference in this and see it looks a lot like roll your own tobacco, cigarette tobacco almost. So,
Ian, are there varieties? You and I just returned from Honduras, where we were out at the JRE and Aladino Farms and Cigar Factory. Are there varieties of tobacco plants grown specifically for pipe tobacco, or is it more about how they're treated and cured once they're harvested?
I actually don't know the answer to that.
Okay, I don't know
I'd have
either.
to research that. I don't know. I haven't looked that far into.
Or Brian will comment on the show notes momentarily.
Wiki Brian will tell us what's going on.
Thank you, Brian.
I have another question.
What you got?
So, as I said, I smoke cigarettes. Do they mess around with the tobacco like they do with cigarettes? FSCs and all that.
Most of the time, no.
No, it's
just... Now you can get tobaccos that have a top spray on them, but it's usually for flavor stuff. Right. So if you buy, generally speaking, if you buy pipe tobacco, you're not getting all those crazy things like they do with cigarette tobacco at all. And you can actually buy more, like if you are more into the cigarette experience, you can buy more cigarette tobacco, more cigarette-like tobacco.
So that your pipe gives you the same sort of experience from a tobacco standpoint. That's a cigarette.
Well, like a half and half. If you go into your grocery store and buy half and half, that's half cigarette, half pipe tobacco. And a lot of people do inhale that.
And there are some, like when you've seen these like at the drugstore and stuff. Back when drugstores used to carry cigars, there's some cigars made with pipe tobacco, and they're generally a sweeter sort of a mix of cigar, usually machine made.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so. In my pipe smoking journey, I started off, and I had, this was one of my earlier pipes that I tried a lot of tobaccos in, and I would go buy expensive, out-of-the-way tobaccos, things that are hard to find. Some of them were amazing. And most of them were, oh, that's interesting. Frankly, you can walk into your grocery store and buy a big tub of Carter Hall and it's delicious. It's
Really?
absolutely fantastic. You can buy Captain Black in the white package. Absolutely fantastic tobacco.
Really?
There's a reason that's been selling for years and years and years.
Well,
it's great tobacco.
When you think of cigars, though, you think of that totally not being the case. You really have to go to a tobacconist to get a fine cigar.
So it happened at one point in time when both of my brothers were in town, and we all smoked pipes. And they had an event at the Briar Shop that we all showed up for, and it was a blending event. So they had some basic tobaccos. Now, you can smoke your basic tobaccos, but a lot of these are blends. So you take different tobaccos and you mix them until you find a flavor you like. It's much like cooking. And they had the basic tobaccos, and you could add, a little or a lot of any of these different commonly used blended tobaccos for blending. And then they had a little contest at the end. So you blend your own tobacco, and then they had everyone sit around and smoke everyone else's tobacco, a little pinch of it.
Ah, nice.
And
like smoking cook-off.
Yeah, kind of like that. It was a lot of fun. And my tobacco blend came in second place, and then a lady that was there got first place. Her tobacco was awesome. And some people it was interesting because some people like really strong or really peppery or real spicy tobaccos. I like more aromatics when it comes to pipes. My brother, I think, likes more English blends and things like that. And these are all just different flavor profiles. So spicy blends are more Eastern style, I think.
Right.
English blends usually have a lot more like leather and things like that. There's tons of like Irish blends and Scottish blends and all kinds of things that are indicative of the flavors of the place, I think. And then, I like aromatics.
So to shift gears just a little bit, we are at the New Potato, where we're doing the show live today for show number 128 of Smokin' and Toastin'. And do want to mention we're brought to you by B&B Butchers and Restaurant at 1814 Washington Ave in Houston, and in the shops at Clear Fork in Fort Worth. But we're here today at the New Potato with Paul, who's the proprietor, and we are, you may notice my glass here is a Bell's glass. Bell's, yours is too, Ian. Bell's is one of those breweries that I'm going to say we've given an enthusiastic review, not just a good review, but an enthusiastic review to any of their beers we've ever tried on the show. And so we'll get, in a few moments, we'll get to why Bell's is going to be appearing on the show twice today, and there's a good reason for that. But Paul, first tell us about this particular beer that we're about to try.
Well, I was approached about 2 weeks ago by Perry from Bell's. Sorry, that's your beer. This is mine. And he said, I have this old red ale. It's a, what did I say it was?
Barley wine.
Barley wine. I hate barley wines, but I love this.
How do you hate barley? Barley wines are so delicious.
So this is so interesting because Ian's such a huge fan of barley wines.
Yeah.
I have learned to like them since I've been hanging out with this guy. But initially, I wasn't a big fan because it was such a heavy duty raisin
it's
and
heavy,
date sort of a flavor that it just took me a while to learn to appreciate them. Yeah. So you don't like barley wines, but you like this one.
Yeah. Well, remember, I used to be a Heineken and Corona guy until I opened the bar and then I got to taste all these beers. That's the truth. But yeah, I'm loving this.
Well, so this is an American style barley wine.
Okay,
though. You can tell by the hop profile on the back of
it. And they usually have a little more carbonation, the American style ones.
Carbonation could be here or there on it, maybe, but it's usually the hop profile that makes the big difference. The American barley wine has a lot more hops on the back, and generally speaking, I don't like them. I've had a lot of American barley wines that I really don't like. This is outstanding.
Well, I was going to say you've clearly begun your research.
This is delicious.
So
well, a lot of them, and we've had a few on the show that, as a matter of fact, I have to laugh. We did the show at McCoy's, and I brought a barley wine. It was a special barley wine, and none of us liked that one.
I remember that.
None of us liked that one at all, and that was a very Americanized barley wine. It was way too hoppy and way unbalanced. This right here, in true Bell's fashion, is incredibly balanced, and the hop profile is a nice light snap bitterness on the end, but it's not overwhelming, and it's not cloying on the palate.
It's almost 2 years old also.
Well, that might have something to do with it.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, Bell's can really balance a beer because the best example I'll give you is their IPA. To me, IPAs are, I mean, it's the one style everybody makes, but not everybody gets it right.
Yeah.
There is some real, overabundance of the piney hop flavor in so many IPAs because they're trying for bigness. And Bell's has always had the ability to balance that so carefully. And really, all of our favorite IPAs that we've had on the show really kind of share that characteristic, their balance. So I figure if you can balance an IPA, maybe that helps you be able to balance a barley wine.
So one of the things he mentioned, this is 2 years old already.
I actually thought it was off when I bought it because it was the sediment was coming out from the bottom.
Oh, really?
I had to call him up and I was like, "Hey, what's going on here?" And
Right.
He was like, "No, that's
Turns out that's okay.
So in
That's
a
just
keg,
a breakdown, yeah.
in a keg, when you dispense from a keg, your beer is actually coming from the bottom of the keg. Mm-hmm. There's basically a straw that goes down to the bottom, and the beer comes from the bottom. That's why the sediment was prominent there.
Whereas with the bottle, you're pouring and you're getting
Right.
the top first.
So
Yeah.
with some beer styles like IPAs and generally most lagers, you want to drink them fresh. Like IPAs especially are very high hop content beers. Are
Yeah,
usually
they're really only
prone
good
to
for a
that.
few months.
Yeah,
you know?
so you really want to drink those pretty fresh. But when you get to the heavier beers, more malty beers, you can age them a lot. And age tends to mellow and blend the flavors almost like anything else. Picture it like this. Lasagna is good the day you make it. A lot of times it's better, the day after.
Well, you're right
because
about
it's all
that.
blended
Yes,
together.
absolutely.
That
and
and pizza.
Right, yeah.
I was going to say the same thing. The same thing actually goes for a number of different foods.
Right.
That once they sort of blend together, those flavors blend. Think about a cigar that's been freshly rolled. Usually is not quite as complex and interesting as one where it sat for a little while and those tobaccos have had time to marry
Right,
and work together. So fascinating stuff. Fascinating stuff. Well, this is really good. Now, is this something that is commercially available? Obviously, you've got it on tap here while the keg lasts.
Sorry,
right?
it's commercially available, but like to get your hands on it is a different kettle of fish.
I see. Okay. So
I love Paul's Bar for that, and every once in a while when it gets a little too IPA in there, I start grumping at him.
yeah. Well.
Yes, he does. Where's the malt?
Well, the next time that happens, Ian, what you need to do is just call me, and I'll come and try to balance things out for you by drinking some of those IPAs.
Right.
Yeah.
You're
Oh,
an
and
IPA fan?
he always has
Yes.
your favorite on tap. He always
Yeah.
has the Lone Star.
Pint Yellow Rose.
Or the
yeah.
Lone Pint, yeah, sorry.
Honestly, one of the best IPAs ever made. Although I will admit, in the last 6 months to a year, we've tried some that will really rival it. Mm-hmm. It was we were actually sitting right here, Ian, when we had the brewmaster
gentleman from Lone Pint,
Pint, who came and brought beers and
Didn't bring the
didn't
IPA.
bring the Yellow Rose. I was like, it's the best IPA
Actually,
in
you
the
did
world.
it here,
and
right?
didn't bring it. Yes,
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
right.
right.
It was right here. He did bring some other great beers, though. That was a very, very fun show.
I
Well,
think some breweries probably wanted to copy that beer. You know what I mean? Because it's
I
such
think
a
you're
big
right.
success.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it had such a you talk about balance. It's just one of the best balanced IPAs I've ever had. It's just really, really terrific. But yeah, we've had a few others that were good ones. This Odell Wolfpicker that we tried
Oh, that was
a
good.
couple of weeks ago.
Adele's a great
Man,
brewery.
Yeah, they're a
that
great
is
brewery.
just a fabulous
Oh.
IPA.
That the one I talked about earlier, that Daytime, the one that you brought. So Daytime from Lagunitas, Daytime IPA is 98 calories.
And
You were telling me about
Yeah,
that.
it's
And
fantastic flavor.
Is it?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
And
to check
I'll
it out.
just mention because I was reminded when I saw a poster of theirs inside the bar a few moments ago that Eureka Heights makes the Mini Boss IPA, which is fantastic. Fantastic IPA. So I could talk IPAs all afternoon, but to just come back to the barley wine, it really is delicious, and it's not. Some barley wines are. I'm going to use the word a little sticky.
Yeah,
Like they don't feel like there's something you could. It feels like it'd take you about an hour to drink a pint. You know what I mean? And this is not quite as.
challenge accepted. By the way,
But this one is a little more easy
I'm
drinking
almost done. Why
for a barley one. So, all right. I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to take a break and come back to the segment. I'm pretty sure that the Bell's barley wine has no weed killer in it, but your Bud Light does, even though it's not on that ingredients
that
label.
ingredient label that has 4 ingredients, and one of them is not
Yeast. And one of them's not
Really?
weed killer.
For real.
But it's there. And we'll be right back to tell you more about it. It's Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back, my friends, to Smoking and Toasting. Ian has now transitioned from the world's smallest pipe to one of the world's longest pipes, or one of his longest pipes, at least, as he is tamping down there and smoking. Ian, question for you. How do I know when it's time to empty and reload? What's the telltale sign that my tobacco's about done?
When it gets bitter.
Okay.
So, depending on your tobacco, now if it's a more of a Virginia blend or whatever, you'll probably smoke it to the end.
Okay.
Some of the more aromatic tobaccos will get a little bitter.
Right.
When they start loading up, because there's a lot of moisture in the tobacco, and so it gathers at the bottom of the bowl, and it'll get a little slurpy, and that's when you kind of have to stick a pipe cleaner down there, or
And kind of clean it out.
and
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
clean it out, right?
Got it.
So, but the aromatics will a lot of times get bitter and a little off tasting towards the end, and that's when you use this device. They sell these at your tobacconist shops. This is called
It looks like a cork for a wine bottle. That's
right,
what it
right.
looks
This
like,
is
yeah.
a tamper for your not a tamper, but I'm totally blanking on the name of this thing, but this is for your pipe.
stamper.
You stick it in your ashtray, and then you can tamp your pipe against it to knock the dottle out of the bottom of your pipe. The dottle being the last little bit of your tobacco.
Got it.
Pipe knocker is what it's called. I don't know why I couldn't bring that up. But this actually has a sticky bottom, so
Sounds
you pick
like an insult.
Right, you pick your
It
ashtray.
sounds like
A
a hell
pipe
of a lot
knocker.
more to me.
Yeah.
It sounds like it should be in a sex shop.
So you take the sticky part off the bottom, you put it in the bottom of your ashtray, and then you can tamp your pipe against it. Let me see. Let's put it up here, and you can
can
go
show
like
that.
this.
Okay.
And
there
it's
you
a
go.
piece.
Yeah.
It's basically a piece of cork, so it won't damage your pipe.
Right. Won't hurt anything.
But you can knock all the dottle out of your
Nice.
pipe.
Well, a new report by the public interest advocacy group USPIRG reveals that tests of 5 wines and a number of beers, including organic ones, have found traces of the controversial weed killer glyphosate. I'm not pronouncing it. Glyphosate, thank you, to pronounce it correctly, in 19 out of the 20 that they found. These include brands like Coors Light, Miller Lite, Corona, Heineken, Guinness, Stella Artois, and Budweiser. My friends, despite the fact that it's not on the ingredient label, your Bud Light contains glyphosate.
So their ingredient
A
label
weed killer.
is quite selective.
It is.
And that's from
It
the
is.
hops, is it? The harvest of the hops?
Yeah, they said the levels they found are not necessarily dangerous, but they're still concerning given the potential health risk.
Well, you don't
It's
have to
a
worry about
pesticide.
dandelions growing in your belly.
Right. It's a pesticide and herbicide, best known as an ingredient in Monsanto's Roundup. It's a probable human carcinogen, according to the International Agency for Research on Cancer, which is a branch of the World Health Organization. Now, in fairness, noting the report's acknowledgement that the levels are well below the EPA risk for beverages, a spokesperson for the National Trade Association, the Beer Institute, responded by saying that our members work with the farmers who go to great lengths to raise their crops sustainably and safely. The result of the most recent federal testing showed the farmers' use of glyphosate falls well below federal limits. They go on to say that an adult would have to drink more than 140 glasses of wine.
That was going to be my next
a
question.
day, containing the highest
do you have to drink?
glyphosate level measured, just to reach the level that California's Office of Environmental Health Hazard Assessment has identified as no significant risk
I
level.
wonder if that has any effect on the flavor of it. If that's part of
don't know.
the flavor that that is signature to that particular brand.
But if you think about it, pesticide is about the last thing you're thinking of when you're raising a glass, right?
Yep.
Whether it's a glass of wine or a glass of beer, or in this case, a glass of Bud Light.
So what we need to do is make a commercial where we have a big wagon full of pesticide.
Right,
And then
we
drive
show up
around
at the
to
Bud Light
different-
headquarters and go, "Hey, this got shipped to us by mistake."
Speaking
This
of which,
is your
there's a Bud Light
pesticide.
brewery
Right.
about 2 miles that way
Yes, I believe there is.
from where we're standing. So I wonder.
Interesting.
That's like the secret hobo spices.
Well, in fact, I don't think there's enough of it in there to hurt you. In fact, you'd probably die searching for flavor before you died of the glyphosate. But
I never said anything.
Yeah, of course. I forget.
I don't sell it, so.
You
okay.
don't sell it, really?
I don't sell
That's
Bud Light
interesting. Now, I know you've got obviously a great menu of craft beer, but do you sell any mainstream beers here at the New Potato?
You're gonna love this.
Yeah, I serve Lone Star. That's one of my biggest selling beers, believe it or not.
Yeah.
On bottle, but mainly my draft beers are all craft beers.
Okay. Well, by the way, Lone Star rolling out a new 68-calorie beer.
That's right.
It's going to be called Lone Star 24/7.
Yeah.
Now, I have stood at this bar
Yeah.
and watched people come in and ask for 5 different beers that are all macro brews.
Yeah.
And watch the bartender. Somebody we've actually had Roberto
Yes,
on the show before, who also works here, and watched him explain to people, we have Lone Star. We don't have that. We have Lone Star. And we're back.
All
okay,
right,
so you were in the middle of telling a great story.
Yeah.
here.
First of all, apologies and thanks for staying with us. We did lose some audio, but we are back. Segment 3 of Smoking and Toasting. Paul was about to tell a story. He told the story of the woman who came in and you substituted the Lagunitas for the Bud Light.
Which Lagunitas was it?
Aunt Sally.
Aunt Sally.
That's a great sour.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
And then you were also, I think you were about to tell another story, and I don't remember
Well,
what
no,
it was.
what I was going to say was, so ever since then, any woman that comes in and says, have you got a Bud Light or a Dos Equis or something like that, I'm like, no, but I have this, try it. And maybe 7 times out of 10, they'll hate it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And
That's great.
And mainly women actually drink the sours.
I just
More
wanted to,
than men.
That's funny. I love sours, too.
yeah.
I don't like them.
I just wanted to mention that Brian in the show notes just typed in, can't hear a thing. Your review is getting better. Thank you, Brian. Always appreciate that. So before we sample this Bell's, which IPA is this again? This Bell's?
This is the double IPA Hop Slam.
Oh, Hop Slam. Okay. So before we sample this, we have two Bell's beers on the show today, and that's significant because of what's going on with my partner here, Ian, and with the New Potato and Bell's. So who wants to explain that?
I'll let you explain it.
So this
It's
started
your
off.
deal.
I'll let you tell part of the story too.
Yeah.
This started off as I signed up for a bicycle ride that goes from Houston to Austin in 2 days. So you ride 100 miles the first day, and it's a neighborhood of 80 miles the second day.
This is the MS 150, right?
It's called the MS 150, right? If you look up my name and you want to donate to my ride, I'm trying to raise about $5,000 towards the MS Foundation. And that's the whole purpose of this ride, is to
Right,
raise
for charity,
money and
yeah.
awareness for MS. And I was talking to Paul about it. I said, well, I have this charity ride that I'm doing. And he goes, well, I have an idea for you. One of the things he does here at his bar is every month he's putting on some sort of charity with some beer company. Last month, I believe it was Eureka Heights.
Yeah.
Which is poignant because I'm actually riding on the Eureka Heights team.
Oh, that's very cool.
Now, a lot of companies like Schlumberger, I guess you say, Schlumberger, like a lot of the AT&T, all these guys.
I
around
like calling them Schlumberger, but it's Schlumberger.
Slumberger.
a lot of these companies around here have teams that ride for this, and then everyone raises money for the team, and all that money goes to the MS Foundation, and it's a great thing. They do it every year. I have done this ride before, but it has been about 10 years since I've done it, maybe 12. I don't remember exactly what year it was. I think it was about 10 years ago or 9 years ago. But so I'm out there getting in shape and everything. I was talking to Paul about it, and he's putting on every month he's putting on some sort of charity event, and he gets a brewery that he works with here. As he says, he has all the great craft brew here. He gets a brewery on with it, and they usually put in, like last month you had a basket that had a bunch of stuff from Eureka Heights, including
Prize hamper from Eureka Heights.
So, and then every time someone bought a beer, that money, $1 of that, I believe, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, the New Potato donates $1.
And then there was a raffle ticket for the end prize. Well, he made this offer to me, and I'll let him go ahead and explain.
So the last one with Eureka Heights, it was very short notice, but it actually worked out. It was for the Alzheimer's Association, and it went off well. $1 went from every drink. Actually, it was Buckle Bunny from Eureka Heights,
which is great cream ale,
which is
awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, it sells great here. $1 from every beer went towards the Alzheimer's Association. And then, as you said, you came to me and told me you were doing the MS. I was like, all right, do you want a brewery? And I spoke to Perry off Bell's. Bell's was on board.
That's so great.
They're donating certain things for the prize, and the New Potato's going to donate $1 for every Bell's drink that somebody buys towards.
Right, so if you happen
this
by
man's
here,
ass in the seat.
Mm-hmm.
We're just east of downtown on Clinton Drive. If you happen by here, buy a Bell's beer. $1 of every Bell's beer that's sold here goes towards my MS donation fundraiser.
And your name goes on a ticket into a bucket. At the end, when he comes back, he's going to draw it out. We'll put it on a video. And
nice.
We'll probably get Perry or somebody from Bell's out, and we'll do a whole show and.
Well, that's pretty amazing.
You've got at least a couple of Bell's brews on tap here. One is this While It Lasts, the barley wine that we tasted in the last segment. And now is some absolute double IPA goodness.
See, you're doing some research on yours.
Oh, my friend. Yes, I think the telltale beer mustache is giving me away. But, no, this is quite delicious. First of all, you can totally tell it's a double, but it doesn't have that, all right, I'm going to take my hops and bash you about the face with it sort of vibe that some double IPAs do have.
I'm a bit of a Bell's fanboy, and for this reason, that their IPAs, which I'm not the biggest fan of IPAs, I'm just a little sick of them, to be frank with you, but their IPAs are always so well balanced, and this is no exception.
You just got to drink the right IPAs, is all I'm trying to say to you. And you could start right here, because this is just damn delicious.
You know, I'm a little surprised, by the way. All the beers we talk about, you're like, I don't like that one. Or, I don't like this one. You always point me to good beers when we're here.
Well, when you walk in, you don't even ask me for a beer, and I just pour a beer.
A lot of times, yeah.
That's
but as long as it's not an IPA.
Hey, it's sort of like, hey, Norm, you know, it's the same. It's the same sort of a vibe. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's about 4 or 5 customers I have here that I do that. But honestly, with the other Bells, I did that with a couple of other customers, and they were like, I don't like it. I'm like,
you're crazy. Barley wine?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Barley wine's
not to go backwards, by the way, but you mentioned that you guys sell a lot of the Eureka Heights Cream Ale, the Buckle Bunny.
Yep.
Another great one to recommend to people who are trying to try a craft beer, and then maybe they're normally a normal customer of the macro brews. Yeah, because it's so accessible, so delicious, but it doesn't it doesn't bash anybody over the head with too much craft beer strangeness for their first trip down craft brew lane.
Yeah.
But well, this is really delicious. Now, I don't know. I'm assuming I don't know if I've seen this in the stores or not.
I've never even heard of this until he had it.
But it is really, really delicious. So
I haven't seen it in the store either.
It's one of those IPAs that you're going to have the first one and you're going to go, well, that is so easy to drink. But what's the ABV on this?
I think that's, what was it, 10%?
Is it 10%?
I had a piece of paper there.
See, he knows me.
Yeah.
It's 10.5 or 10.2, something like that.
I had to be careful because last year he had 120 minute on tap. The Dogfish had 120 minute, which was, that particular one was topping at like 18%.
Oh, my God, yes.
Oh, so good. So delicious.
So good, yes. So delicious.
But only one, please.
Right?
Yeah.
You need more.
There are some of those that you really use. And, this is one of the things that, we talk about this a lot, that, craft beer may have more calories and higher ABV than a lot of the mainstream macro brews. But you're also not taking this barley wine or something like the 120-minute IPA and throwing it back and then throwing another one back. No one takes
a buried hatchet
Right, exactly.
Buried Hatchet Stout slams the can and then smashes the can against their forehead. Like, that's just not a thing.
Maybe your friend Mark would do that.
Mark might do that.
He might do that.
You know Mark.
I'm trying to think of a couple of people. Is it Scotty Hamilton's brother?
Oh, no. I was thinking,
Sorry.
actually, I don't know if maybe you don't know Mark. Mark is, he was repping for a while for New Republic, and then before that he was with Goliad. And now he has his own independent, he cleans taps and lines and things like that.
We had Mark on the show in the studio one day, and
Mark Nichols.
I think Ian and I got to talking about some kind of cigar legislation or something, and Mark became bored for a moment, so he reached into the cooler.
He's sitting in between us like this, right?
He reaches into the cooler, shotguns a beer and smashes it on the show. It was the classic smoking and toasting
Icebreaker.
moment. Yes,
That
it was
awesome.
It was a wonderful thing. See,
like you're not ignoring me.
That's when
Right.
you know we're getting a little too thick there, Ian.
I'll entertain myself.
Yeah, that's right. All right, we are going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We have another beer to try, and then we're also going to tell me about this Mexican gin that you want us to try.
That was a major surprise for me. One of my Patrick from Favorite Brands came along. He says they're trying to push more liquor.
Mm-hmm.
They do great beers as well. But he brought in this gin, and it's from Mexico. And I was like, gin from Mexico? Get the hell out of here.
I don't think I've ever heard of gin
Right.
from Mexico.
Yeah. But it's badass.
All right, so we'll try that coming up in our next segment. You are checking out Smoking and Toasting, and still to come, by the way, the best cheap whiskeys, both from the critics and from the public. We'll get to that coming up next.
Awesome. Segment 4.
Welcome back, my friends. It's Smoking and Toasting. This is our 128th show. We are brought to you by B&B Butchers and Restaurant at 1814 Washington Ave in Houston, and in the shops at Clear Fork in Fort Worth. 128 shows. That means there's 127 of them you can find and listen to, and one lost episode, which our former producer refused to post.
And we don't even have a copy of it.
We call that the bitter episode.
That was...
I honestly,
very
I
bitter.
think we should go back and unearth it and repost
I
it.
don't think Paul knows the story. Well, here's what happened. Our show had a different name when we first began. And then we got an ugly letter. Actually, we got a really crappy letter from some company out in California that had something close to the same name and a website that
They
didn't
were
really
like
explain.
a cake delivery company or something.
That didn't explain. They were like, we do cigars and chocolate or something. Like, they were very unclear. And even their website, you could leave there, you could explore their whole website and have no idea what they were doing. But and we ended up having to change our name for the better, I think, actually. Cause
Smoking and Toasting is perfect.
yeah, that's a great name.
Well,
I
it is.
think
And
so.
Ian came up with the name, and it is much better than our first name, which was, can we say it, or do we get sued if we even say it?
We can say it.
We can say our first name, that which shall not be uttered, was Sip, Smoke, and Savor, which was a nice name.
Which is a nice name.
But Smoking and Toasting, I think, is a
Sounds
way
better.
better name. Yeah, way better
It
name.
rolls. I say it rolls.
It worked out good. But the show where we had to change our name, let's just say I was a little bitter.
Yeah, there's...
So you couldn't show the whole show.
Well, I didn't think there was anything wrong with it. The producer
The
that
producer
we had at the time
was like, oh.
Adam's predecessor. Well, he didn't tell us this. He just never posted the show.
Yeah.
This is before we did the show on Facebook Live.
Right. So when I came in and said, "Hey, Adam's predecessor,"
Has he got a copyright as well?
no, but I don't want to put his name out there. I said, "Hey, man, my brother downloads the show every week, and he says, "Hey, man, I haven't seen the show." He's like, "Yeah, no, we didn't do that."
Yeah. Yeah,
And
I
I
won't
was-
say his name either, but his initials were Bobby Duncan, and the
You're not talking about Bobby Duncan of Too Tall Media, right?
no,
Not
not
Bobby
that
Duncan?
guy,
Not that Bobby
guy.
Duncan?
Yeah, not that guy. Different Bobby Duncan.
Didn't hear it.
It's a common name. No, but that was so. That's the lost episode. And honestly, Ian, I really would like to go back and find it and just post it as the lost episode. I mean, we don't have video, but we could post the audio.
Oh,
of
it
as-
would have been hilarious.
Well,
because
it
you
probably
were
is funny because I was
bitter.
probably
I was
probably not
bitter,
in a
but
good
I was
place.
still trying to do a little damage control.
No, see, that's because you're a nicer person than I am. I think everyone who
Do you know
everyone
him?
who watches the show knows that.
I don't
Yeah.
know if am I that much nicer or
No.
less willing to get sued.
I do,
I'm not
Paul.
sure
You
which
just don't
one
know
it is.
me. So
Right. Well, there you go.
no, but that's That's it. 128 episodes of the show, and quite frankly, it's been an awesome ride. I would say no one has stepped in to stop us yet, but that would be repetitive. And we don't want to go down that.
Wait till they start using your name.
Yeah, we don't want to go down that.
So
path.
we have Mexican gin.
Yes. So I was reading this bottle after you put it in my hand a moment ago, Paul, and this is made with 100% agave.
Yep.
So doesn't that mean that it is actually a mezcal? I mean, it's not made in Jalisco, so it's not a tequila. I get that, but
you're asking the wrong man. The only thing I know about it, and you'll see in a minute, once you open that bottle and pour a little sniff and take a little whiff.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'm going to post the question out to Wiki Brian right now. What makes a gin versus the?
I'm going to say the botanicals, but
that's what I thought.
But I may not be right about that. Because it does say on the bottle, and this is Gracias a Dios, 100% agave spirit, handmade gin, and then it goes on to say, infused with 32 botanicals and spices from the 32 states of the Mexican Republic. And that's what it says on the bottle. And I'll just show the bottle to the... Where did you come across this, Paul?
Patrick from Favorite Brands.
Wow.
Yeah, he came in with it, and I was like, get the hell out of here.
Mexican gin, let's try it. Well, you were talking
I know I have two of my cocktails off the menu.
We were hanging out. Me and my wife come up here once in a while. We were hanging out the other night, and I think you and her were talking about this gin. That's just the other night. So, what an interesting and bizarre thing.
Yeah, because I think she likes the Monkey 47, doesn't she?
Yeah. So we talked about the Monkey 47 because if you watch our intro on the show, you'll see there's a guy that pulls a glass bell off of a drink, and it's all smoking and everything. Yes. And that is actually a drink that he made with that Monkey 47 gin. And when I was in Ybor City, and that was such an interesting drink that I had to come in and be like, okay, you got to do this on camera so I can have that on the show.
Absolutely. Yeah. Not only is the drink badass, the bottle is badass.
Yeah,
it's like
absolutely.
Jumping back 100 years to medicine and...
So this is incredibly interesting because this smells like tequila. It smells like mezcal.
Just so you know, our buddy Brian says gin is battery acid made from juniper, right?
Kind of drain my batteries.
You never know what you're going to get with that guy.
Don't know, and that's why I appreciate his comments so much. So, okay, so Adam, I've got one of these for you as well if you want to come try this. So I'm really curious about this because I'm a huge fan of tequila.
Right.
I have been developing an appreciation for mezcal. Ian bought me for Christmas this year, bought me a great bottle of mezcal.
Yeah.
So I'm developing that sort of appreciation. But this seems like maybe a third evolution in the agave trail.
It's not a mezcal, it's a gin.
Okay, so
it smells like mezcal. Like this gin.
You know what?
It
smells like mezcal and gin maybe mixed together because I'm getting
it smells a little left of center for a mezcal or for a tequila kind of ish thing. So the flavor is so interesting because it's so botanical. It's but
on the tongue, in the center of the tongue, it's a mezcal.
Yeah,
it's agave. You can feel
taste
that agave
it right away.
Yeah.
So, Paul,
you can smell it from the get-go.
You said you guys have made cocktails with this. What kind of cocktails would you make with this?
The first cocktail I tried making with it was actually just like a whiskey sour, except for I did it with a mezcal and I did it with agave instead of simple syrup. But same ingredients: egg whites, lemon juice, agave, and this.
Wow.
You guys do a great thing. When you have interesting spirits, you guys sit down and create a drink.
Cocktails from them, yeah.
We mess around.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you come in here, there's signature cocktails, and they change from time to time, depending on what you have or what you think is fun.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because you always are creating something new. You're not just doing the standards. You're trying different things with whatever you have going on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, honestly, I've been blessed with like some really great bartenders that are willing to like jump out of the norm. And I mean, the last time you guys were here, Matt Rickard.
Man, nobody makes an old fashioned like that guy.
Well, that's his old fashioned here.
Yeah,
you know,
nobody makes an old fashioned like that guy.
Wow. Well, I will tell you, I am a fan of the agave, as Sammy Hagar once so famously said. I love agave spirits. To me, this may be my favorite gin I've ever had. Because as much as I like the Hendrix and those kind of gins.
Yeah.
This just, I don't know, it's somehow closer to home for me because of the agave.
Yeah.
I think it's terrific.
It's crazy.
It's incredibly interesting because it literally splits the difference between mezcal and it's like if a bottle of tequila and a bottle of gin had a little baby.
Yes, and I said earlier it was like they were mixed, but it wouldn't be that good if you mixed them. Like it wouldn't gel.
But this rolls off the tongue in such a strange way,
right?
So it's got a buttery kind of tequila-ish or mezcal-ish kind of flavor going on, and then when it finishes with that botanical kind of snap.
Yep.
And a little smokiness.
Yeah. Like that smokiness is like all around my...
Yeah. Like
the smokiness is like the mezcal, but the botanical is like a really wonderful, interesting gin.
Yeah.
It's not overly juniper-y, although you certainly can pull the juniper out of there. But, man, to me, it's like you took a gin and made it even more awesome.
It's got a woody kind of flavor to it as well. A very... And it's not an oaky kind of flavor, but it's a very woody kind of flavor. I don't know if it's like a mesquite or if it's like some kind of hardwood kind of astringency to it. That's
you're right. There's a wood in there that almost makes you think of it. It doesn't have a smoky. It's not a smoky flavor like as much as mezcal might have, but it has enough of that it makes you think of a barbecue.
I want to use this.
Grill.
Yeah, I want to use this in a marinade. I bet
my God!
I bet that'd be amazing, like with some shrimp or something. Like I bet that'd be just ridiculous.
Paul, you have turned us on to something really terrific here.
They also do make mezcals, by the way.
I'm not surprised. I may like this better than
what's
a
the company again?
Gracias Adios.
Gracias Adios.
I said gracias adios.
And the label is fantastic
gracias
as well.
Adios. Yeah, it really is.
It's got that old.
And
vintage.
I may like this better than mezcal because the botanicals of the gin kind of offset that sort of like. As a really true tequila fan, I still enjoy tequila more than I enjoy mezcal because there's some of that smokiness kind of has me going. But the botanicals of the gin offset that a little bit.
Yeah.
So for my particular palate, this is like in the sweet
It
spot.
almost makes it more interesting, yet cleans up the tail end of a mezcal kind of thing. This is interesting.
I couldn't agree more. I would never be sitting here sipping on this ever.
Like,
if that was a mezcal,
generally
never.
speaking, like a regular gin, unless it's something like I've had aged gins that I really like to just sit and sip on. I like a gin martini, but that's extremely cold and extremely dirty. But generally speaking,
or a slow gin fizz, I really enjoy.
Right.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, I wouldn't take a gin like this and just sip it.
Right.
This is something completely different.
Even a gin and tonic is really good because of the balance, the way the flavors come out,
and the bubbles.
But yes, you're right. To take it straight up like this, that's a thing.
Yeah.
All right. This is kind of a revelation, so I'm like I'm a little like blown away here.
I'm flabbergasted by it.
Yeah, we are.
I think it's great.
We are going to take a break. We're going to come back and we're going to do. You had a stout, right?
The Expedition Stout.
Right. I will point out that it's pouring rain in front of us and behind us
absolutely
today.
pouring. I don't know if you can see it through there. Rain doesn't always come through on camera, but it is.
It is pouring rain both in front of us and behind us. You may be able to hear the rain. I don't know. And you may be able to hear the big trucks rolling by. But we are having an amazing time, not the least of which is because of this pretty amazing gin mezcal thing that we're having here.
Gin scowl?
Gin scowl or mezgin. I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, but no, this I'll be adding some of this to my bar very soon.
Yeah,
I can tell you that. So.
Great. It's great in a cocktail.
It's Smoking and Toasting. We will come back and tell you about the best cheap whiskey. That's going to be in our next segment.
Ooh, I want to know about that.
Yep,
right.
And we'll be trying out some stout, and I'll be relighting my pipe. I may try some of your other tobacco over there, Ian. Just find me something you think I'll like, and let's do it. You're listening to
Your nose will tell
Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting here for our final segment. For a moment or two, it was raining like to beat the band during our during our last little break there. It has slowed down a little bit, so I'm
It's
hoping.
also dropped
sent
about
me to
10
get the
degrees.
It has also dropped about 10 degrees. We turned up the heater, but none of that is helping Adam, my producer, who's on the other side of the room. So
We did send Paul to get the drinks. However, he knows where they all are.
yeah.
And they don't know how to use a heater. They
just
turned it
wanna-
down.
I just want to point out that during the break, Ian had asked Paul if you'd make him a martini with that Mexican gin.
And I asked
that
for
we
it
just had.
slightly dirty.
You gave me a taste of it, Ian. It's fantastic. Like, not to giggle on like schoolgirls, as we've been accused of in the Reddit comments.
This is
but
amazing.
It's really
Did you
amazing.
try this?
No.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's really, really
Yes,
good.
please.
Please do.
Are you a martini fan? That is a fantastic martini.
Yeah, I'm buying some of this spirit as soon as I can find it.
You're not a fan of that.
I drink one. Yeah.
That is an amazing martini.
It's funny, I hate making coffee, but I make a great cup of coffee.
Oh, yeah.
That's all my wife says anyway.
Well, that's a skill. It's a good skill to have. So
gonna pack my
Forbes
pipe.
magazine went out on a limb and named America's best value whiskey, and it's only $23. 15 years
Sorry,
ago,
what was it called?
it's America's best value whiskey. It's only $23. They say that 15 years ago, a whiskey lover could walk into a store and find a plethora of very good to great American whiskey for less than $25. But these days, with price hikes, bottles that were once $28 and now $40, former $45 bottles are starting to hover around $100 because supply and demand, and so value whiskey has become, $40 for the most part. However, they were very excited to name Old Forester's new rye whiskey, which has just been released and has a retail price of $23 a bottle.
Now,
as their best value whiskey.
I brought that bottled and bond just a couple weeks ago from Old Forester. and it's outstanding.
Yes. This is a $23 bottle of Old Forester straight Kentucky rye whiskey. Kentucky straight rye whiskey. They say think vanilla. It enters the nose and tickles the olfactory with caramel coming in behind, a burst of rye muffin baking in the oven, and lastly, hints of herb are on the nose. That's a pretty strong review for a $23 whiskey.
That's nice.
Yeah, it really is. Now, fortunately, and I don't know whether I would say that I trust Forbes or not, because I can look back at some of their cigar reviews and tell you, although I'm sure this Old Forester is good, but I can look back at some of their cigar reviews and say, I think they might be a little suspect.
Yeah.
You know
well,
what I mean?
also, Forbes will review cigars like the Cohiba Spectre,
Right.
which is $100 for
Right. It's like
a cigar.
I'm sorry.
One
Unless I
cigar.
get the lottery, I'm not smoking a $100 cigar.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I can burn $100 in many better ways than
Right.
buying one cigar.
I can buy 5 amazing $20 cigars and be much happier.
I was eyeballing
Then-
the Padrones earlier
Yeah,
today.
see, that's what I'm talking about. All right, so Uprocks, which is a website, uprocks.com, did an article recently about the best cheap whiskey according to the masses. So this is something a little more up my alley. This is where the public is on this type of thing. Again, not sure I trust Forbes, but here's a top 10 for you from Uprocks. Number 10 is Four Roses.
Yeah.
I agree.
I'm so in with that.
I'm behind that, yeah.
So in with that.
whiskey.
And they show, interestingly, in the article,
Now, you carry Four Roses here, right? Yeah.
they show a
Small
bottle of
batch.
Four Roses and the Four Roses book, which is awesome, by the way, to peruse while you're sipping a Four Roses. At number 9, they say Jim Beam. They say you can't go wrong with a bottle of Jim Beam. A balance of alcohol heat with hints of vanilla oakiness, and sweet
I have to
Regular
tell you,
Jim Beam?
softness. It's $13.99.
I have to
retail
tell you.
price.
So I cannot drink Jim Beam just by itself. I
Yeah.
don't like it. I don't like the flavor profile. I don't think it's delicious. Great as a mixer. So here's one of the weirdest ones. Ginger ale and Jim Beam
Is good.
is absolutely delicious.
Interesting.
It's a great drink. I can't drink Jim Beam on its own. I just don't like it.
I just don't have enough experience with Jim Beam to be able to tell you one way one way
You
or
didn't
another.
go to college?
I honestly don't sell that much.
I did. But I wasn't drinking Jim Beam in college. I was drinking Jose Cuervo. Thank you very much.
Oh, you did go to college. Okay.
Yes, I did go to college. Jack Daniels is their number 8. They show a picture in the article of Keith Richards. So that legitimizes it about as much
Jack
as you
Daniels
could.
to me is another one of those. As a mixer, fine, but by itself, not for me.
They say here it's a classic whiskey, whether you like it or not. The banana-forward Tennessee whiskey has enthralled generations of whiskey drinkers and will continue to do so, and it's an easy whiskey to drink.
Somebody likes it. They make more money than I do.
Yeah, well, that could be true. At number 7, Crown Royal. Now, I'm not a fan here. I'll tell you, I've had Crown Royal, although I love their advertising. I love that billboard where it says "not actual size, too bad." I love that.
I think
so
Crown Royal, I can drink a Crown Royal on the rocks. I think it's okay.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with that. Also, great go-to for mixers, things like that. If you're going to do a Crown and Coke, I think is a fine drink. I don't think Crown Royal is complex.
Yeah.
I think it's a very straightforward whiskey, but
See, I'm with you. I'm not a fan. At number 6, though, I'll check in. Jameson.
yes.
Yeah.
Jameson I can drink straight.
When
I
you
can
say
drink-
check in, what do you mean?
Meaning, I haven't necessarily agreed with their last several things on the list, but I'm with them on Jameson. I like
As
Jameson.
middle of the road.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's as good as some of the other things that are from smaller batches.
Well, these are all inexpensive.
right,
This is
but
like on the
talking
cheap.
inexpensive, right?
Yeah.
So you're talking about.
Can I have that tobacco that
You certainly may.
the one over
Are you
there, the
looking
rum
for?
one? I wanna
Oh,
try
the
it.
rum.
I don't think Jameson
You
is
must
cheap.
try this. This is wonderful tobacco, my friend.
It's still under $30 a bottle. It's 20.
$19.99 is what they're saying for
$19.99,
Jameson for
Where?
the regular bottle. Where?
The bartender wants to know.
This is their, this is their the article is listing the
somewhere where
suggested retail
TABC
price.
doesn't get their hands
Right.
on it.
Exactly, and that's the thing. Depending on what state you live in, this can vary by
Yes.
$10 to $15
Exactly.
a bottle.
Brian says Jack or Jim ahead of Crown. I see. I'm the other way around. I don't,
Yeah, see, I would have a tendency to agree with
like
him.
to
actually.
drink on its own.
Yeah, I would have a
I
tendency
would
to
say
agree. With him.
Crown ahead of Jack or Jim.
At number 5, Evan Williams.
Evan Williams, I can go with that.
They say here Evan Williams stands above a lot of cheaper bourbons by the simple virtue of not having any burn. They say it's such a smooth drink that it hits the nail on the head of what bourbon is. Smooth with the corn-fueled sweetness next to nice notes of oaky vanilla.
This Sunset rum I got you is very, very moist.
I love it. I think it's delicious.
Smells great.
Yeah, it really is. By the way, the cost they show for Evan Williams, $11.99. That's
really
not
cheap.
bad. At number 4, now you're talking my language here, baby. Knob Creek.
That's a great bourbon.
Knob Creek.
So I walked into a liquor store in Florida one time, and they had one of these the big displays that holds the handle size bottle of that,
Right.
and you stick your bottle in there, and then you just tilt it. I bought that from them for like $5. The guy was like, "Oh, you want it? $5." I was like, "Okay." I actually keep a handle-sized bottle of Nom Creek at the
Nom
house in that dispenser because all you have to do is pop the top and tilt it into your glass, and it's a beautiful thing.
Right.
Well, Knob Creek
That's what I was drinking last night while I cleaned all my pipes, by the way.
with Evan Williams at $12.
They're beautiful.
Knob Creek comes in at $33.
Yeah.
So it is, and they even admitted in the article, kind of pushing the upper limits of what they would call value
Yeah, but
whiskey.
it's $50 for the industrial-sized bottle.
The one with the handle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't actually have a handle. It's the same bottle, but giant.
Is it 1.75? liter?
No, it's the big one.
It's even bigger than that?
Isn't that the... Oh, is the 1.75 big? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
A handle is 1.75.
Yeah, okay, that's the one I'm talking about.
At number 3, Wild Turkey. A blend of variously aged whiskeys becomes a smooth sipper with a mellow bite, coming in at $20. Ian, your thoughts on that being number 3 on the list?
Wild Turkey has been a staple in my family every Christmas. So for many years, like the only time that I've got a large family. I've got 2 brothers and I've got 4 sisters. Okay, so getting everybody in one spot at one time is difficult.
Not an
But
easy thing,
anytime the guys in the family were together, Christmas Eve, we would end up in Manland, which is the garage.
I was going to say.
And we would drink Wild Turkey. So me and my dad and my brothers would drink ourselves senseless on this. One year, I ended up getting a new set of router bits for Christmas. That's how geeky my family can be. And I was very happy about that, right? So
Which is how geeky you can be.
Right.
Yes.
So because I had these old router bits, we decided to set up some planks of wood. And while we were drinking Wild Turkey, we were going to see who could freehand our name best in this plank of wood with a router. Not recommended. Don't try this at home.
Do not try this at home.
No.
Anyway.
Got some new fingers with the new router bits.
So Wild Turkey has been one of those that's been in my family for years. I love it. And at the same time, it makes Christmas morning hurt. Now, on the funny side, my other funny Wild Turkey story is on my birthday. You came out to my birthday. We decided to have my birthday on the deck at Cecil's Lounge this year.
A lot of fun.
And so we had steaks on steak night.
Yes, we
with
did.
Brian from
with Brian from Meat
Mojo.
Buy
Awesome.
Meat Mojo rub. That stuff is amazing on everything.
I have it at home.
Yeah, so do I. It's so good. Anyway, so my brother thought it would be funny because he was in town. He thought it'd be funny to just start buying me Wild Turkey shots. Mm-hmm. So I walked in and I spoke to the bartender.
Because that's a family thing.
Yes, it was a family thing, but 101 Wild Turkey shots are a little much. So so I walked in when my brother wasn't looking. And I spoke to the bartender. I said, "Listen, every time my brother orders a Wild Turkey,
Give me Coke.
just replace it with Templeton Rye."
Good move.
Is Templeton Rye on the list?
Which is delicious. And so one of the funniest things about that is when we were leaving, my brother, we were getting in the Uber, my brother's looking at his receipt and he's going, "Man, they're kind of pricey on their Wild Turkey."
You're like, yeah.
And I like Wild Turkey, but Templeton Rye.
At number 2, Maker's Mark. Coming in
I
at
do that. That's
22
something I
bucks.
do.
Maker's Mark, I
Maker's
love
Mark.
it.
A
great.
go-to.
It's great.
They call it a good go-to bottle for cocktails and the occasional whiskey on the rocks. Kind of has that warm spiciness, little botanical vibe to it. I will say that actually one of my go-tos in my home bar is the Maker's 46.
Yes.
I really like that. Now, obviously, that's a step up from the regular Makers, but
Yeah.
I really enjoy it. It's got a really lovely sort of caramel vibe to it, which totally works for me.
I had a
dig it.
bottle of it at my last Christmas party, and it lasted maybe about 2 minutes.
Did you say 2 or 10?
2.
A 2, okay.
Everybody was
That
drinking
makes
it.
sense.
It's like, suck it. What the
At number 1 on the list, coming in at $30, Buffalo
There it is.
Trace.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
You know, and honestly, can you
Hey,
think
hey.
of a better?
At $30,
Inexpensive, yeah.
that's the 1.75, isn't it?
Oh well, I don't know. I
I
That's the
think
combat bottle at
the
$30.
combat bottle,
yeah.
well, right? Because you can get it for less than that here, can't you?
Yeah, it's like $23 or $24 for the.
I'd have to.
Am
look
I
at my
totally
list.
off?
I think it's a little bit more than that.
Oh, wait.
But it's definitely not more than 30. I can
But
tell
the
you that.
combat bottle, the 1.75, is not that expensive either.
No, it really is.
Fantastic bourbon.
Absolutely fantastic. Drink it straight. Drink it on the rocks. Mix it. It's great for
Drink
all
it
those
naked.
things. Drink it naked.
Well,
Wait. Let our audience visualize that.
this
There
has
you
something
go.
to do with
I
you
did say her.
dancing on the table with your shirt off later on the program.
I'm about to.
Actually, Adam bought me a
Some
bottle of it
Mescal
for my
Gin will do that
birthday,
too.
and it's wonderful, just all by itself.
You
neat
know what's wrong with
at the end
Buffalo
of the
Trace?
day. What?
Not a damn thing. It's great.
Well,
So
yeah.
my brother, again, my older brother was in town, and he likes whiskey. He doesn't go out and explore whiskey quite as much as I do. But we ended up at Reserve 101, which has a great selection of whiskeys.
Yeah.
And we're standing out on the patio, and he tried a couple, higher end whiskeys that you don't get to try because you either have to buy a bottle or you go to a bar like that.
right.
And he lives in the middle of, he lives in International Falls, so there's not a lot of bars like that in International Falls. Actually, there's no bars like that in International Falls. But what was funny is at the end of the evening, he finished his whiskey, and I still had a little cigar to smoke. So I went in and ordered a Buffalo Trace double with a couple rocks. And I came outside, and he's like, "Oh, what are you drinking?" I said Buffalo Trace, and I let him try it, and he was blown away. He loved it. Loved it better than everything else he tried.
Yeah.
He was like, what is that? I said, oh, this is going to boggle your mind. I said, that's $25 a bottle. And he was like, what? So
what did he usually drink?
What's that?
What was he usually drinking?
Well, so he likes the Glenmorangie La Santa.
All right.
Which is
Well, there's nothing
absolutely
wrong with
fantastic.
that.
Yeah, no, nothing wrong with that. He likes whiskey-wise. He tends to like very complex, full-flavored whiskeys,
Right.
and that right there hits the spot because it is more
It really
complex.
is.
That's more. I would argue the Buffalo Trace is more complex than almost everything on that list, excluding maybe Wild Turkey. But I don't know about the complexity on Wild Turkey because to me, Wild Turkey just means I'm going to have a headache in the morning.
Well, it's a family thing.
It's a family
you
thing,
said
and
that
I'm
for
okay.
me.
I'll drink it, but.
All right. We want to get to our final beer here, and this is something that Paul has poured for us from the taps here at the New Potato. Paul, what is this beer?
So this is the Bell's again. It's the Bell's Expedition Stout.
This looks like a piece of chocolate cake.
Looks
is
like,
what
it
it
looks like chocolate ice cream.
Yeah, chocolate ice cream and cake in a glass. The
You could
Bell's
stand on it.
chocolate stout. Have you had this, Ian?
The Expedition Stout?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure I've had it here before as well, haven't I?
Yes. But I've had this, like, so when, before Bell's was distributed here, anytime I traveled north to see family, I would come back with Bell's, and this is one that I would always bring back.
Yeah, it's great.
Always bring back. They have a couple stouts. They have a Kalamazoo Stout,
Yep.
which is not necessarily my favorite because that has a very anise flavor, very black licorice kind of flavor to
Yes,
it.
and I'm
which
not a
I think
big
is
licorice
a
guy.
big component of that. And it's a well-crafted beer, but not my favorite. But the Kalamazoo Stout is an outstanding stout.
Well, this is
Yeah.
very chocolate coffee, more what you think of as a traditional, or more what I think of at least as a traditional sort of stout flavor. That sort of coffee or espresso with sort of the bitter dark chocolate. I'm loving it. It's
pretty good.
really really delicious. I know you're checking out the comments, Ian, seeing.
I am. So Stevie Ray says, fun fact, Wild Turkey is family owned and Matthew McConaughey is the only person outside of the family to make whiskey for the brand.
Well, I know that I saw him on one of the talk shows talking about his blend, and apparently, unlike some of the celebrity endorsement things, he was actually really involved in the process.
The actual
not
creation of
necessarily as a
Right.
brewmaster, but certainly as a taster and somebody that said no, not yet, no, not yet, and then said okay, that's it when he felt like they
So
got
Delmar and
the right
Brian
place.
are going back and forth on the thing here. They expected to see 40 Creek on the list.
Interesting.
40 Creek,
Yeah.
40 Creek is respectable. That's a good whiskey, and I would put it in the neighborhood of the somewhere between the Wild Turkey and the Buffalo Traces as far as flavors go. And yeah, I could say honorable mention definitely.
Ian, let me ask you this: we're talking about
I
whiskey.
was young. I needed the money. Oh, sorry. Different question.
Bellows.
Yes, I think that may have to do with the pipe knocker that we were mentioning.
The pipe knocker.
that we were mentioning earlier.
We're
in the
going to
show.
have an entire segment on the pipe knocker at
coming
some
up
point.
next week.
Right.
Pipe knocker
I'm not
101
involved.
here on the show. No, I wanted to ask you because you're so much more experienced with pipes than I am. Obviously, I have learned to really enjoy and appreciate the pairing of a really great whiskey with a cigar. Is the pairing of a pipe with a cigar, does it carry the same pleasures as the I'm sorry, not a pipe with a cigar, a pipe with a whiskey? Does it carry
Absolutely.
the same pleasures as the whiskey?
100%. Absolutely.
So talk to me about that a little. What are you looking for when you're looking to match up? Could you match up? Does a pipe match up more with something like
Okay.
the
Are
stout?
you
or-
smoking the
I'm smoking the
accountant? Okay,
yes.
so accountant goes with stout really well because there's so much of that vanilla and that Cavendish sweetness to it. The stout blends with it so well. I'm smoking your rum. Your Sunset rum right now also goes well with the stout, but probably not quite as well with stout. But the bottom line is this. Back to the whiskey sniff.
Yeah.
It's the same exact thing. You get the flavor of the tobacco you're going to have in your palate, and then go smell your whiskey or smell your beer. It's going to match, or it's not, you know? So, for instance, out of the 3 tobaccos we have here, we have 2 heavy Cavendish. That's your rum one, which has the rum influence.
Which I really like.
My Accountant, which is very like big vanilla, big.
I'm loving
big
the
sweetness.
vanilla.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we have the Virginia, which is a little more mild in the sweetness. It's a little less sweet, a little more leathery, a little more of the traditional tobacco flavors. So, if I was going to direct you, like out of these 3 tobaccos, and say, okay, we're having a stout, I would immediately say Accountant.
Okay.
If I was going to say, okay, we're going to have some kind of tequila or rum, then your Sunset Rum goes well with it. Okay. I mean, it's pretty easy. It's almost in the title.
And what about a whiskey?
It's telling you almost.
With whiskey, it depends on the whiskey, because some whiskeys, like if you have a very high mineral content whiskey, something along the lines of like the Old Forester or something like that has a really mineral aftertaste, that matured Virginia is going to be great with that. But if you have something a little sweeter like the Buffalo Trace, then I'm going to say Accountant. But if you have something with a lot more spice in it, then I would say the Sunset Rum, because those are flavors that are going to complement each other.
So at the end of the day,
let your nose tell you.
Yeah, smoking a cigar, smoking a pipe. Do you have a favorite between the two, or is it just about different things for different times?
It's a mood thing.
Yeah.
If both of them are time consuming, and I love that about them, because if you're going to sit down and smoke a cigar, you are stuck smoking that cigar for the duration of the cigar.
And what a wonderful stuck that is.
Frankly, yeah. And that's the beautiful thing about it is you say, hey, I'm dedicating this much time, which means there's a lot of stuff you can't do while you're smoking a cigar. You can sit down and enjoy your cigar. You can go do a bunch of other stuff, not necessarily at the same time. And that's a beautiful thing that makes you slow down from everyday pace. Well, the pipe does that a little bit too, but the pipe has the one added value of you're going to relight your pipe, you know?
Right.
You're going to relight your pipe.
That's going to happen.
It's going to happen, and there's no penalty until you get to the very bottom of your pipe bowl. There's no penalty for relighting your pipe. So the nice thing about smoking a pipe is if you're outside, like if I'm outside washing my bike, and regreasing the drivetrain or doing like knick-knacky stuff, a pipe is great because I can set it down, it goes out, I relight it, I'm smoking a pipe.
Whereas with a cigar, there may be a relight penalty.
A cigar, a lot of times, has a relight penalty. You get stale smoke and those kind of things. So there's, it's like that. And then the other thing is, just for whatever reason in my mind, when it's cold outside, I guess probably because the pipe is warm, on my hand. And
it
things
does
like that.
Seem like a wintry
it's
thing.
It's more of a wintry, it's more of a fall, winter,
which
early
is why we
spring thing for me. Summer, I'm way more cigars. Colder months, I split it about 50-50 with pipes.
Which is why we wanted to do the cigar, the pipe show now before it started warming up here in Houston, which won't be long, by the way. Yeah.
Plus, the other thing is too, if you start doing this with a cigar, it gets weird.
No, it does get weird. You absolutely
if
right.
I'm doing this with a pipe,
it doesn't get weird.
It actually looks like the word for today is gravitas.
Gravitas. I like it.
Yeah.
And you carry it off better than most, I will say.
Thank you. And Paul, who very rarely smokes a pipe, looks great with the pipe. It looks very comfortable in his hand.
It matches the beard. It works.
You were waiting for that, weren't you?
Okay, so I can't think of a better way to close out the show. The Bells has been wonderful. Support Ian by coming to the New Potato and drinking a Bells, and a buck gets donated on behalf of the New Potato. To Ian's MS-150
Also, if you don't live close to the New Potato, you can just look my name up, Ian Barry. That's Barry with an A.
B-A-R-R-Y.
On the MS-150, BP MS-150 website, and you can donate direct if you want.
Absolutely. So coming up on next week's show, I just got a hold of one of the brand new Avos that I'll be smoking and reviewing. Have not smoked it yet, but I'm looking forward to smoking it and reviewing it. Yes, on next week's show. It's a brand new blend from Avo that has just come out.
It's awesome because I got a crowned heads that I've never seen before.
So I think we know what we'll be talking about next week. Plus, Jared Hempstead from Balcones Whiskey will be joining us on next week's show. So we're looking forward.
That's good because I am out of Balcones.
Are you?
House.
Okay,
yes.
well, there you go. we can only cross our fingers and hope. Paul, such a pleasure to be
Thank you
here
very
at the
much.
New Potato. Thank you for hosting us and for the beers and the revelation of a new spirit.
Hey, do we have a second right before we go? How did you arrive at the name The New Potato?
Honestly, actually, I'm not going to say this online. We just
seems like when he says this, he should be pointing the pipe.
Okay, so
anybody that knows me, including yourselves, you know I'm Irish. I'm from Ireland. I'm from Dublin.
Cuss.
No, I'm not going. I wasn't going to curse. But The New Potato is basically me, Irish dude, potatoes, Ireland, famine. That's what it is. I'm the new potato. I'm the new Irish dude on the block, the new Irish bar. Even though there's a shit ton of them over here.
Okay, so wait a second. You're Irish?
Oh, 100%. Get lost. Shut up, man. The thing is, like, so many people have told me I don't hear your accent anymore. You know, I haven't been home in 4 years, and it's killing me.
Yeah, no.
I'll be like the Pope getting off the airplane, kissing the runway when I do get home.
Okay, well, so I will say, I totally understand and hope that you are able to get home soon. But the people who say they can't hear your accent, yeah, they're full of shit. Your accent's still there.
Yeah.
So thank you again for hosting us here. This has been wonderful.
Pleasure.
The beers and the spirits have been wonderful. Hope you enjoyed the pipe.
I did.
And
it was great.
Thanks to Aaron for producing in the middle of a monsoon there for a little while. We did have a little bit of audio problem, but thanks to you guys for sticking with us. And wow, this has been a fun show. It's always fun at the New Potato. I will see all of you next week, of course, as we do Balcones Whiskey and talk Avo and Crowned Heads. And until then,
Slanja.
Cheers.
Cheers.